To order at 7 o'clock.
Come on in, find a spot.
Squeeze in. Squeeze on in. Don't stand in the hallway. Plenty of room, come on in.
Yep.
Okay, we call the meeting to order. I'd like Kristen to take roll.
Keith Moyer,
Present.
Jim Schlichting,
Here.
Jeff Jennings,
Here.
Randy McLean,
Here.
Jason Brown,
Here.
Terry Honeycutt, here, Tamara Kerr. Here.
We have a quorum. I'll ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Hey girls, since you're already standing there, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. We meet every month.
Keith hates doing that part himself.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda. Thank you, Jim.
I'll second it.
Jeff, thank you. A motion and a second. All in favor?
What are they doing?
Tamara's abstaining. Okay, we have some recognitions.
We do. I'll start with Mr. Selby.
Yeah, so glad to have the middle school volleyball team here. They had an outstanding season. I know the middle school administration and myself are very proud of the season they had. Combined, I believe they finished 43-2. The A team went 20-0, and the B team went 23-2. And they both finished the last tournament of the year is the MRVC West tournament, and both were the champions of that tournament. So congratulations, ladies, coaches. Again, we're very proud of you. And coaches, if you want to say anything, feel free to take the floor.
Pretty much summed it up. We had a great year. I think we have 21 of the 23 girls here tonight. And I would say every single one of them improved tremendously over the year. They worked hard, and we're just a delight to work with, and great kids, great families, and we just had a great year. I don't know, we just were successful.
I had a great time. They were a fun group of girls. I'm excited for next year.
I unfortunately only got to see one game, but there were a lot of varsity teams that wouldn't want to play these guys. And our coaches, you guys did a great job. I mean, that kind of record is unheard of. That's awesome, but you did it, so go Panthers.
We've got two more recognitions, and Mr. Newman was unable to be here today, so I'm going to follow up with this one. If I can have Jace come on up. How are you doing?
Oh, fine.
I'm going to read some things about you. Are you okay with that? Okay. So Jace is a junior? Senior. Sorry, don't do that to you, right? When you come back. So Jace is an A+ student, and Mr. Newman has started a new award called Outstanding A+ Mentor. So the teacher that he works with was able to nominate him and tell us all the great things he's doing as an A+ tutor. So I'm going to read what she said about you. All right? It's Mrs. Whitman at the middle school. She said, I just wanted to let you know that Jace has been a lifesaver for my ELA 6th grade class. He's an A+ student who comes over every day to work with a Spanish-speaking student. Jace has gone above and beyond his duties as an A+ tutor. I appreciate all he does for the student, translating, encouraging, teaching him English and ELA topics, and helping me with other students in the class. He is lending a hand to other students, and he's a leader for our school. Thank you so much for all you do, Ms. Whitman. And then we have one more recognition. If Kyra would come on up. You didn't know there'd be so many people here today, did you? So Mrs. Borgman is a teacher at the high school, and if you don't know, she has published a book, and she is now a published author. So we found this out, and of course she didn't tell anybody. She's keeping this a secret for herself. So I'll share the link. You can buy her book on Amazon. We have purchased several books for the libraries around our campus, and we want you to sign them. But her book is, I had my daughter read it. She loved it. Her book's about differences. Whether we have curly hair, whether we're tall and skinny, whether we have braces or glasses, we're all different. We need to learn to love ourselves for who we are. And so there's one little part of the book that I want to read, because on every page she says this. Look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love my eyes because they're mine. Each page is what you love about yourself. Be proud of what makes you, you're one of a kind. So it's a beautiful book. We're excited to have it in our libraries. We're proud of you for publishing a book. But before we leave, we're going to have you sign all of these. Our library. You're welcome. Yeah. You have to buy the book, right? Everybody, go to Amazon and buy our book.
When I did this, I was like, I'll be lucky if I make $1 a month, but that's not why I'm doing it.
How did you
so.
find your illustrators? Somebody you knew or a publisher?
He's in Shanghai, China, so I do not know him.
Okay.
I had to find him online. There's an app, and it's a whole process, but I can share it for anyone who's interested.
Well, I don't write too many books, but.
no, thank you. One and done.
Quite the process, huh?
Yes. We just want like a signature.
Yeah, just sign your name. And we might even put your picture, one of your pictures on the back, or on the inside anyway. Yeah.
What age level are you aiming for?
Preschool to 4th grade, I think, would be fitting.
I enjoyed it. It reminded me to just appreciate all of our differences and how we are all unique, but we need all kinds of people. Like bald.
That's right.
Or
There is ball on the first page.
There's all kinds. There's one that's cute. It talks about not being able to, some jump tall, some jump a lot, some don't jump at all. So.
Well, my favorite part is because it talks about we are all crayons that we're all different colored crayons, and that the world would be so boring if we were all gray.
And even broken.
What's wrong with gray?
That's right.
The idea when I wrote it was like disabilities. So with wheelchairs, crutches, alopecia, vitiligo, all of those are in there. There's an autistic boy with hearing aids, and so just celebrating those differences.
Have you had your students in your classroom read it? Did they?
I wrote it to them, yeah. And they were happy to point out an error.
Oh. That means you're teaching them well.
And they told me not to tell anyone I'm their English teacher. So.
And it even says in her little bio it isn't on here. It says that she's a high school English teacher in Missouri.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. We're proud of you. That's awesome.
Yes.
All right. We're going to move on with the meeting. You're welcome to stay and hang out if you want.
Are we doing our financial report? I mean, that seems like something people would stay. Tanya, stay. It's fun. All right, go watch it on TV at home. All right.
Now the adults have to stay.
Color of the world.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Anyone like to make a motion? Approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jeff, on the draw. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? We have some action items, starting with our audit.
We do. We've got Brad Steele from Westbrook here. Came in and his team did our audit. He's going to give us our annual report.
Okay, like she said, my name is Brad Steele. I'm with Westbrook & Company. I'm not going to go through every page in your audit, but I'll go through some highlights that we had, and if you have any questions over anything, just stop me anytime, we can go through it. First thing I always want to point out is in the independent auditor's report, it's in our opinion the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. It's what your bonding company's looking for, it's what DESI's looking for. Anybody that looks at your financial statement audit, that's the first thing they're going to look for is make sure you had a clean audit, and you did. This is your statement of activities, and what this is saying is all your governmental activities down the left-hand side with the expenditures, and then in the middle is your program revenue specifically related to each one of those activities. So you can see there on transportation, even though the district spent 1.4 million on transportation, they received grants from the state for 650,000. So the true cost to the district was about 749,000 for transportation. This is your balance sheet. You can see there cash and cash equivalents about 4.2 million in the general fund, special revenue fund, debt service, and capital projects. Capital projects, that is where all your capital expenditures are come from. Your debt service is where all your principal and interest payments are coming from for your debt and your bonds. Special revenue, I always tell people this is 99.9% of the time is always zero. That you either transfer enough money over there, you code revenue over there to zero that out. And then the general fund is everything else. The only truly restricted money you have is in the debt service. It's restricted by law. It can only be used to pay principal and interest payments back. Then you've got the assigned, or the board assigned funds in the capital projects fund, so that's assigned, and unassigned is your 3.4 million in the general fund. This is your revenue expenses by fund. You can see there in your operating funds, what we call operating funds is your general and special revenue fund. You had a negative 242,000 in there this year. Debt service was positive, and then negative in the capital projects. This is your general obligation bonds and your lease certificate of participation. Your balance at the beginning of the year, additions, your retirements during the year, your balance at the end of the year, and then you got 2.5 million coming due this year. These next three are graphs that kind of summarize everything that we've talked about. This is the comparison of revenues collected by source. And so, as you can tell there in the last 5 years, revenues have changed a lot, but as a percentage, they're pretty close to where your sources of revenue come from, whether it's local, county, state, or federal. Federal has been a little, the last couple of years, it's been higher, because of all the COVID money, but for the most part, it stays pretty consistent, and that's what we'd expect.
I liked it. I liked that. That was helpful, because actually, over time, our state revenue percentage has dramatically reduced.
Yeah, and some of that has to do with, of course, the federal money that you got. The total, even if it goes up, your percentages stay the same, but in this case, your percentage of total revenue has went down from the state.
Over the past 10 years or so, it's been on a spiral down.
And hopefully that changes coming this year, next year. So we'll see. This is your expenditures, same type of graph. And you can tell here the salary and employee benefits make up over 70% of your operating budget, which is pretty standard for schools. This is probably the most important graph we have, is your reserve ratio. And this is basically taking into consideration your operating budget as compared to how much cash you have in the operating funds, in the general fund and special revenue fund. So it's, in that comparison, you're at 19.56%. So we like to see our schools right at 20% or above. So you guys are right there in that ballpark, so that's good. And then your average daily attendance at the bottom there, it's went down a little bit the last few years. Some of that has to do with COVID, and hopefully that'll be coming back up here in the next couple of years. We gave an opinion on your financial statements. We also have to give an opinion on your compliance with Missouri laws and regulations. And as part of that, in our opinion, you complied with all those requirements, so that's good. We also look at your internal controls as a way to plan for our audit. We don't give an opinion on your internal controls, but we do look at them. We identified a material weakness, which is the same one you have every year for the segregation duties, but there is mitigating controls that you guys have put in place to lessen that risk, which is good. And here, because you have over $750,000 of federal expenses, we also have to do what's called a single audit and give an opinion on your federal programs. You can see there in our opinion, the district complied in all material respects. And you had a clean federal audit as well, so that's good. This is kind of a summary of the financial statement audit at the top. There's the material weakness for the segregation of duties and the federal awards, which no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies, which is good. The thing I always want to point out at the bottom here is the auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee. That's always no. That's 99% of the time in the school districts in the state of Missouri, that's always no, because you have to be GAAP or accrual basis to get that. Most all schools are cash basis, just like you guys are. So that's marked no in probably 99% of the school districts in the state of Missouri. And that's the segregation of duties issue we had. anybody had any questions on anything? We did a required communications where we gave you our recommendations. We went over that with your administration. But I'll be glad to answer any of the questions you have on any of that or anything that we went over in the audit.
There was one you guys pointed out about the bid process and the dollar amount. I wonder if because it's like $33.50 or something like that, and I may not be spot on about the numbers, but that seems very low. Is that an MSBA policy, or is that our own policy?
MSBA, so anything between the 3,500 and 5,000, we're supposed to get 3 bids.
Yeah, you can, those MSBA policies are recommendations. You can always change those, but you've adopted that MSBA policy, but you can always change it.
Right, and really, because state statutes, it is up to 50,000 now that requires board approval, anything 50 and above.
Which ours is 2.
Yeah.
Right, I know that, but I'm just saying.
So you're surprised it's so low?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm with the cost of almost anything now.
Yeah.
I just, and that's really, I guess, not you, but I
Yeah.
see.
It doesn't take long to get 3,500 and
Right,
expensive, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can't go to Costco.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but for really, it's just good practice to shop around. You know,
Oh,
so
I-
it isn't,
I'm
it
not
isn't
saying that. I'm all
hard.
about that.
It's just an internal process for us. Like, for example, when we bought the van, we looked all over and called all over, but we didn't print anything to show that we saved 3 bids. So it's just a change of some processes that we need to do, even though we're usually asking what people are getting, especially online anymore. That's the biggest thing. It's not necessarily going out and getting a sealed bid or any kind, it's just pulling down 3 different prices to show that we looked at good faith and stewards of money, and we looked, so we just have to do a better job, especially when we're shopping online, looking at prices, that we're printing those to save with the PO for proof that we looked at bids. But, yeah, we could always raise it, for sure, but, you know, just kind of just general common practice, everything we're looking at is expensive, so we want to make sure we're looking at multiple
And I get
sources.
that. I certainly want us to be great stewards of our district
Mhm.
patrons' funds, for sure. But that 3,300, I thought, wow, that's pretty low.
Yeah, it is,
And that's not requiring you to go to the board and get sealed bid. That's just saying, go get 3
Yeah,
quotes.
I get that.
and sometimes they're emails, and we just need to print those emails, so being quoted something.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
For this right here.
Any questions or comments? I entertain a motion and a second to approve the 2022-2023 audit as presented by West Point Company.
I will make that motion.
Jeff? I'll second. Jason, have a motion and a second. All in favor? We discussed architect engineer firm.
Correct, so we went out to bid for architect and engineer firms, looking at just the RFQ process. So the RFQ process is requesting for qualifications. So we're not looking at prices of anything, we're just looking at what are the qualifications that these architect and engineering firms could provide us. So we went out to bid for that, and we received 4 bids back. Dakewell, which is out of Springfield and Kansas City office. They have a Springfield and a Kansas City office. SAP Designs has both a Kansas City and a Springfield office. Insight Designs has a St. Louis, Kansas City, and Overland Park office. And then FSG, which is Facility Solutions Group, has a St. Louis and a Kansas City office. So Tom and I looked through those. We gave all the packets to Randy too, just to kind of look through them. They're all architect engineering firms. Dakewell, SAP, and Insight are architect firms who will contract out engineering services. FSG is the engineering firm who contracts out the architect, so that's the big difference there. Of course, we were looking at those low change order rates and cost-saving measures that we just don't want to be in a situation where we're out designing what we're wanting. So long story, when going out in this process, we're wanting to use this firm to help us plan and determine exactly what it is we're needing, and running a spring bond, and then helping with the design factors and then the entire project. So they would be in with us for the long haul. Analyzing all of them, looking at all of them, top 2 for us, we felt like was Insight Designs and Facility Solutions. What stood out to me, the difference is Insight's quite a bit bigger. Insight is the architect who is servicing contracting for the engineer. Facilities is the engineer group, contracting the architect. And I like that piece. I have worked with FSG previously in a small project, but they do a lot of big projects. The biggest district they work with is Rockwood out of St. Louis. They are a small company. They have very low change order rate, less than 1%, but I think the big factor for me is their owner representation. So they will act as the construction manager. So they will be there for every process, every bid, and the entire process as they're the owner representation for us. So they would be our architect, our engineer, and our CM for our project. So my recommendation is at FSG, I don't have a problem with any of the others. I've just worked with them before. Insight Designs has done some small schools and done a lot of really great projects as well. I don't have anything against them. I think the piece for me is that owner representation piece. And I know we don't want to go construction manager at risk, but if we do decide to go with FSG, then they would be all encompassing architect, engineer, and GM for us.
So with FSG, who will actually write the checks to the subs? Will the district do that, or will they do that?
The district will do that. The district will receive, but they'll go to FSG for approval. Last
So
project.
Each payroll period, each product period, the district will.
They submit them to FSG. FSG approves them and approves the work and then submits them to us for bid.
That's really the only, just thinking of what, Norman Salmon's gonna have a lot more work than what Brenda had. That, and don't get me wrong, I was burnt, fried, and cooked by our construction manager at risk. I think the only people that were at risk were us.
Well, like I would say, so it wasn't each individual sub. So, like in the last project I worked with them when they were building a locker room new construction project. So what the construction company that they hired to do that, we paid them and they paid subs.
Okay.
So we weren't dividing out and paying each individual sub.
Okay.
We just paid them.
No problem. And I think it's important because assuming if we do what our past survey is and we work toward a auxiliary gym and a weight room, those are going to be some interesting designs, and these guys are engineers. That could be advantageous for us to try to figure out a place and all the things that we need, or with the elementary cafeteria circumstance.
It's a different mindset working with an engineer firm instead of architect firm, because an engineer firm is going to look at logistics and going to look at necessities instead of.
And I think the thing that sometimes gets lost in that is oftentimes architects design things and they're not clear on the functionality of something, and even whether it'll actually work. Where engineers are typically the ones that kind of clean up the sometimes messes, and that'll be, I think, advantageous. And I think it's, and I know I'm just broken record, but and people, I probably need to come up with a new line because people don't understand what I mean by broken record. Because I think vinyl's coming back to it. Anyway, back to where I was saying. Yeah, the point is like a superintendent told me a long time ago, they can design you broke. And I think sometimes some of our designs in the past have been excessive and cost us a lot of money. I think this is great, and I like the idea. I especially like the idea of the change order 1% or less is incredible. That's fantastic.
And the 1% is 1% of the total value of the
Yes.
project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I can assure you our last project far exceeded that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I make a motion that we,
So what does this actually bind us to?
That's what I was going to ask. That's the
So board's approval to let me move forward, then I will start negotiating percent of overall project with FSG, and the contract will come back
For
next month.
what project has it had to do with though?
So this is for us to prepare decide what we're gonna look at in a bond, and then it would be all the whole entire scope of that. So from analyzing, I mean, Tom's gonna do a facility piece in just a little bit to help us break down what our needs are, but they're gonna help us design and start planning that process along with language and things that we need if we do a bond to sell out for a bond. And then have everything ready to go as soon as we pass a bond, then have everything ready to go in that planning process.
So they're just becoming kind of the engineer of record.
Mm-hmm.
I have a silly question, because I was not on the board when we did our last bond, so I have no idea what this process looks like. If you're gonna go build a house, you go out and you look at multiple plans, and you're picking what style of house you want. If you go to one architectural firm and they're gonna give you one plan, like, why wouldn't you receive multiple plans from different architectural firms and be like, oh, we like that,
You can
oh,
do
we
it that
like
way, but you can also ask for multiple designs and plans. The idea is to work with them now to say what we want that to look like, and then help us design it. Instead of designing and then us picking, we'd rather them help us build and design it. What we want
Design build
to
versus
feed
well,
our
building
needs,
assessment.
Typically,
fit our needs.
what we've done over 40 years, when you typically will choose an architect, or in this case, an engineer company, or an architect, and they begin to work with everybody. They start meeting with different buildings, they start meeting with teams in different buildings, and they start gathering information, and then they begin to put together a plan, start looking at the financial aspect of it, administration, parent groups,
Telling us
sometimes
what
town
costs
hall
are.
meetings.
Mhm.
Yeah. and-
Looking at costs so that we know that so that we're not going out for a bond saying we're gonna do these 12 projects, but we can only afford 3. So they're
Yes.
gonna help dissect all of that and knowing what the cost is for any of these projects, and to help us prioritize what it is exactly, because we'll need to approve bond language. And then, in bond language, what are we gonna do? And then start advertising, what are we gonna do? But we need to be able to make sure we know what those costs all are, so they will help us determine all of that.
And I would assume they, like most companies, would assist us with marketing information and things like that as well for
Sure.
the bond.
Sure, and I think the other piece too is, so, once we say this is the company we wanna work with, industry standard is 6 to 10% of the project. So then it just becomes a negotiation with the company that we're wanting to. We could not get to a negotiation that we feel is fair and we may move on, but at least gives me bidding to be able to go and start bidding with them and negotiating with them for contract price of the project, and then they would come back with
There's not a
contract price.
retainer or a design fee to start with.
No, it's part of what they write into, just a risk that they're usually willing to take to get the project.
And so this is something that, is this what the district's looking at for like a bond of April of 2024?
So in our CSIP, it says that we were gonna run a tax levy this year, along the following year. And then we determined that with Jackson County and assessed evaluations and that this is not the right time, plus we're getting some additional revenues because of that increase. Plus working with Piper and Sandler, we've kind of found out and figured out that there's a few other things we could do before we wanted to ask our patrons. We can ask for a levy transfer from voter approval, to transfer funds that are in our debt service. Our debt service is the $1.86, it's the highest in the state of Missouri, but we're paying off our debt fast. So we could transfer that if we know that our bond projects are gonna start slowing down a little bit. I mean, if we're able to bonding capacity every 5-6 years get 25 million, do we need that sustainability? If not, we could transfer some of that debt service levy to Fund 1 to give ourselves a raise essentially. So there's a few other options before we want to go to our patrons. So because of that, and then because the assessed evaluations went up, we knew we kind of needed that 25 million bonding capacity to kind of hit some of the projects we want to do. Well, the assessed evaluations that went up gave us that bonding capacity a year earlier. So it puts us in a position to be able to run no tax bond this April to be able to do the construction projects we're wanting to do.
I would assume to kind of tag on to what you said, since we're using an engineering firm, if we tell them and they design a scope, so to speak, of what we want, they could go to multiple architectural firms.
Sure.
and-
Yeah, or adapt and change what is being presented to meet our needs.
Any more
Do you
questions?
want to make that motion?
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the retaining of the architect firm Facility Solutions Group. Engineering firm.
Is there a second?
I'll second. No, you
I have a motion and a second. Excuse me, the approval of the architect engineer firm RFP as presented. All in favor? Is everyone? Talk about the parents as teachers.
Yes, parents as teachers. We've got Mary Beth and Jana, our wonderful parents as teachers, educators. They're gonna kind of give you guys an update on what's going on in the world.
And we're not gonna make you cry this year doing the slideshow. I'll just talk through the information that was in your board packet. So we just kind of laid out what Parents as Teachers is, that we do the home visits, we do screenings from birth till they go to kindergarten. We offer play groups and group meetings and family activities, and then we also have a resource network where if there's a family in need of anything, we help them get connected with something to meet their needs. So that's the basic breakdown of what we are. And then I listed the strengths of our program. I think one of the biggest one is the strong relationships with families in our program. Some of these families, we've been in their homes for years. You think you're done, and then they have an announcement for you. Hey, here comes another baby.
Or you beg them to have another baby.
Yeah. So since we've been around a while, we have some strong relationships with families and feel like there's some good back and forth with them. And then one of the program challenges is just an awareness of what our program is. It's so unique that even some of the teachers in the district, I think, have no idea what we do. So that's a barrier. Some of the families are hesitant to have us come to their homes because they think we're going to report them to the state or the school district or put them in a file somewhere. So just getting the word out of exactly what we are and what we do is a big one. And then I thought we'd talk about some of the goals that we have coming up for this school year. And Jana is going to talk about some readiness nights that we were going to do.
So one of the things that we thought that we would work on this year is having a kindergarten readiness night. And we're going to do 4 nights, 2 weeks between them. And just have the kids that are going to kindergarten come and work on specific things. Like each night we'll work on a specific thing. Like the first night we'll work on letters, sounds, and then the second night will be numbers, counting, and the third will be motor skills, fine and gross, and then the fourth will be like sharing, games, community. So, because we want the parents to know what their kids need to know before they go to kindergarten. And we just thought this was a really good way to kind of get them ready.
And interest in that picks up a lot around Christmas. All of a sudden they see that August coming and they're like, oh no, we're not ready. So we thought doing this in the winter, January, February would be a good chance for people to realize they need it and then sign up. And children will come with their parents, so we'll do activities with the kids and then help the parents know what they can do at home. And then as far as our last school year, we came in with 281 home visits, 216 screenings, and we had contact with 114 families at group meetings. So all of those numbers are up this year. We've been really working hard. And then Jana was going to talk about some of the group meetings that we held this past school year.
Yeah, so last year we went to the fire station. We had a huge turnout for that. This year we went to the fire station as well, but we did like an outside water theme and the kids loved it. We like to go to the library. They have a read and play where they do like story time and then they have like activities that they do. We do music with Mare. We don't get to do that this year because she got a full-time job, so that's really sad because the kid. Yeah, if anybody wants to come do music with us, that'd be great. We go to the pumpkin patch. We went to Extreme Gym. We went to the zoo last year, which was a lot of fun. We met our families at the zoo. During the summer, we did a walking club, and then farm night is always our biggest one. So.
And
You'll
then
probably need your tent again.
Yeah. And then at the end, I just put some of the responses from our survey that we send out at the end of every year. That's part of our program requirements. And we just had some nice comments that we thought you all would like to hear about how our district's doing with our program and in the encouragement it is to the families with young children. And although we do lots of other things, at its core, this is a home visiting program. So much of our time is spent sitting on people's living room floors with kids and animals piled around us, talking about their kids and their specific needs and development and helping the parents understand what they can do to make their child successful. So, thank you. Anyone have questions for us?
And you said you were actually in-home visits have increased over time?
Yes, and I would say even like during COVID, nobody wanted us in their homes, of course. And yeah, they've been increasing. We're getting to where we're very busy and have a hard time. We used to spend some of our time in the building doing things like story time and helping with the classrooms in the early childhood building a little bit. And we've had to cut back a little bit on that because we don't have a waiting list, but we do have very full amount of visits that we do every week. So.
Well, that's encouraging because I guess I had the assumption that with more kids coming not school ready, those parents might not want you in their home and basically feeling like a failure or whatever it might
Right.
be. But that's good to hear.
Yeah. I think some of that is just those babies that never saw faces for the first couple years of their life are all hitting 2023. We know when they were born, so we're seeing an increase in some needs, but a lot of the parents are very receptive to help, and
Good.
we start when they're infants, and then some of them are still a little bit behind, when they get to be 3, and we hook them up with our preschool. So.
Do you have a feel for, you said 281 home visits, how many kids does that involve? In other words, I know you make multiple visits.
Right.
Roughly.
Let's see. I think I see 25 families. I'm part-time, and
I have about 55.
so and there may be 3 or 4 kids in the
How
home.
do you get the word out? Because you're talking about kids preschool age, right? So how do you, and the reason I say that is because we did it, and I thought it was great. And kudos to my wife, because she said, hey, we're going to have these people come to our house. And I had that reaction. I did.
Yeah.
We're doing fine with our kids. We don't need somebody to come. I really did,
Right.
and I was much younger then. But,
Right.
but it was great, and it was great for our kids, and it was great to let us know, what we're doing right and maybe what we need to adjust. So how do you get that word out?
A lot of it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, just our families. Madeline, sorry, I called you my daughter. I don't know who you are. Mary Beth. She has like a whole neighborhood group that
I see like every house on this one street because they just keep talking about us to their friends. So really, we don't want to recruit too much more right now because we're so full. And we want to be able to get to people every 4 to 6 weeks, which is where we are. We're pretty full right now. But we've talked about other ways to recruit because we do want to spread the word too. So
Right.
it's kind of a balance of, what we do on that.
There's some reimbursement from the state. There's some state funding.
Anything else?
Well, thanks,
Thank
ladies.
you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. all. Appreciate it.
Keith, I had the same conversation with my wife, and she was an elementary teacher. I'm like, why are we?
No, but it was great. It was great.
I thought you were doing fine, honey. You need help?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the Parent and Teacher Program evaluation as presented.
Motion.
Thank you, Jason.
I'll second.
Thank you, Terry. The motion and a second. All in favor? That's everything. We have a budget revision, number 1.
Cheryl's been busy.
Welcome, Shelley.
Good to see everybody again. I changed the format a little bit, so I appreciate the feedback that you had on how the budget was presented, so I tried to carry that over to the budget revision, so it's as few as pages as possible. Hopefully it's not overwhelming with all the numbers and the codes, but I did do the summary. So the revision kind of changes that we did as far as revenue was we adjusted and kind of tweaked the numbers that we had for Jackson County because of their ongoing issues. We were just trying to be a little bit conservative. If we get more, that'll be great. I did a little restructuring of the coding relating to our student activity accounts just to make sure that they fall in line with the DESE manual. So that's really their money. It doesn't affect the budget too much. Because that's just whatever they earn, that's their money to use. We did get some additional grant funds, which is really nice, so those 3 are in the budget as well. And we have some preliminary high needs fund estimate revenue that was more than last year, so I put that in there as well. There was an adjustment decrease relating to the supply chain assistance grant. We received 1 round last year, and there was 2 additional rounds coming. I thought they were going to come in 23-24. They actually came at the very last couple days of June, so I had to take that down out of the budget. And then there was just some adjustments on the federal programs with the special education and title, just to make sure we matched the allocation. And then we did sell the small bus, so that revenue is in there. As far as expenses, there was just a lot of it was related to staff changes just since June when we did the preliminary, so it was just any kind of changes in steps that people had or their benefits, as well as the addition of the network administrator. There was some additional funds that we set aside for Pathways to have some additional supplies and software in their budget. And then grant expenses. We did have quite a few things that we didn't originally have in the budget. So that's pretty much it, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your efforts.
Okay, some questions? Entertain a motion for approval of budget revision number 1.
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Joe.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. A motion and a second. All in favor? Is everyone? And everybody's favorite item on the agenda, MSBA policy updates.
Policies, yep. This is our 3rd reading, so we've been looking at these for a couple months. Most of them have to do with updates from legislative session last spring, mostly around the reading initiatives through Senate bill changes. And so just anytime there's those legal legislation changes, it updates a lot of our different policies. And if you look through them, majority of them are just updating, rewording, taking out wording. A couple of them completely got rid of old policies because that, especially the Senate bill for the reading, is pretty cumbersome. So just updating our policies to meet the new legislative standards and statutes. So we do have all 3.
No questions? I want to do a motion and a second to approve MSBA policy update 2021B, 2023A, and 2023C.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Jeff, motion and a second. All in favor? Everyone? And the facilities.
Can you switch over, Tom?
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you. I've got a hard copy here for you as well, and want to try and, I think, shed a little light on, we talked about engineering firm, architectural firm. I think this will help explain some of that, kind of where we're going a little bit. What I've given you here is, that's kind of a master list. There's 2 pages, it's front, back, and then a front. And I just wanted to kind of show you that what we've done was we've compiled a lot of information from different places. The administrators have this, they can add to that. So that list changes periodically about different improvements that we're looking at around the district. That is arranged by really the type of project we're looking at, whether it's a bond, whether it be a capital projects, which we budget for, and also just regular maintenance items. So I'll kind of take you through that, and that's really our master list. But I wanted to piggyback off of that and kind of show you where we're going as far as a district and how we got there. I think this thing went to sleep on me. There we go. All right. So if you remember kind of how we got to where we are right now, if you remember back in 2019 in the spring, we went out, did partner with Hollis and Miller to get some designs. That started all the way back in the spring of 2019, so almost 5 years ago. And what we did is we went through and they talked to a lot of different groups within the community. This came from the patron survey that they sent out about where they think we're going in the future, things they wanted to preserve, and how to improve our educational delivery.
And from that, we also did a staff survey, similar things. And what they noticed was patrons wanted the same things that our staff did. And this came directly off that report that they did in 2019. You can see staff's on the left, patrons on the right. The three most important items for all of those groups was technology, secure entry, sequence, building capacity, and those are all things that we addressed back in 2019-2020 bond. Since then, from a technology standpoint, we've upgraded significantly. We've also gone one-to-one within that time frame. Secure entry sequence, we've redone the front of every building, was impacted by that new front entrance at the primary, high school, and elementary. We did do upgrades at the middle school as well. We're still working on those things. We didn't capture everything during that project, but we tackled a big part of it. And then building capacity, we added an entire wing onto the primary, expanded ECC. We gained 6 classrooms at the high school as well as a new cafeteria. So we addressed a lot of those needs. We opened up some spaces in the elementary school as well. So I think we addressed a lot of those needs, but there were several that we didn't get to or things we want to continue to expand on. So that kind of got us to this point. And if you were part of that project back in 2020, this was kind of our wish list. And this was everything that we talked about. That initial list that came out in February of 2019. And the big number that I have circled there in the bottom left, almost $69 million off that initial wish list. Well, we had to go through, crunch it down, and we ended up doing a project of about $22.5 million. So a lot of those things we didn't get addressed. Don't forget also when we started that project at $22.5 million, we had inflation really hit us right in between phase 1 and phase 2. So we had to do further reductions as well. So the goal here is to go back, address some of the needs we thought were high priority back in 2020, and continue on with moving forward in the district. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you tonight. That's our master list. But I just wanted to kind of show you how we got to where we are. So those were the concerns from the high school. That was 5 years ago. You can see some of those things like STEM classrooms we weren't able to capture. Traffic flow around the school, it was improved, but I think there's still room for more improvement. You can see that's that initial list also from 2020. The highlighted items are ones we were able to address. More parking in front of the building, that's one of the ones that got cut, unfortunately, due to inflation. So there's the high school. The middle school, it's our newest building, so we didn't see quite the list on that, but we were still able to identify some things that technology, the HVAC issues, which Navitas helped us with, and from their presentation, massive savings from that. And address those secure entrances. Elementary, there was a little bit longer list. A lot of that was updating classroom office space, new offices, secure entry. So air quality updates, a lot of air quality updates at the elementary as well. Fencing around the playground, we were able to capture that through capital projects. And then primary, that initial list, primary and ECC were still separated, and then we eventually combined that into one building. But we were able, just talking about primary, we did do some parking, but I think there's still a need there, and those are just some of the things. We had I think the initial project was for a new gymnasium at the primary, but we ended up, now it's designated as a gymnasium because we built the new cafeteria. So we were able to capture quite a few. And then the early childhood, I didn't really do an update on that just because we built them a completely new space, which has gone very well. So kind of moving forward, that's kind of how we got to where we are. Hence the list. We want to continue to prioritize those items from 2020. Those you'll find on that list. I think also we did an audit with Navitas on our current status of our mechanical and energy needs, as well as building a cycle of, we still have some rooftop units we need to consider in the near future, 5 to 10 years out. And then we actually did a roofing audit from a company called Coriel out of Oklahoma. It was really encompassing, and I thought it was great information from us. There was no cost to the district. So we've included those type of things into this updated priority list. We took those, looked at life expectancy, current condition, needed development, initial project list. And that's that project list that you see in front of you. So this list encompasses about 165 items. like I say, it varies day to day because the building principals, when something gets completed, they'll knock it off. And then as more issues arise, they will add to it. Right now, it's actually a little north of $40 million. That's not going to be something we can tackle in another bond issue, all 40 million, but that's broken down into 3 categories. You'll see bond items I prioritize first. Capital projects, which we have a budget for those, I kind of mentioned this, and then maintenance is just a regular basis that we do from time to time. A lot of items that we do in-house, summer projects, you'll find in the maintenance list, a lot of painting, things like that. But maintenance capital projects we budget for, but the bond projects are kind of what we're talking about tonight. So here's kind of the big ticket items from the 2020 bond that we weren't able to get to. Auxiliary gym, weight room, locker room, that was on there. Gym foyer expansion. There's quite a few things on the high school. Wrestling room expansion, renovation. Those were the big ticket items from that 2020 bond. You also see some things, STEM addition classroom at the middle school. The overlay of the existing roof, that's one of the things that we came up in our audit. That's going to be a larger ticket item. That building's coming up on 20 years old. So the roof is definitely something that we need to take into consideration in the very near future. You can see the elementary, we've got the cafeteria or connect to the current, that was on that list. Exterior window replacement, parking lot expansion at the primary. We had to cut that parking lot down on the new north face of the building. That parking lot was supposed to go all the way to the existing parking lot in front of Panther Stadium. We had to cut that down as well. They've also had some exterior doors we need to start looking at. They're getting to some of the older doors. And then an LED upgrade at CA's campus, so LED upgrade to Panther Stadium is something we're going to look at too. So those are some of the big ticket items, and I just put a couple of pictures. And Mr. Selke, if you want to chime in on any of this, feel free. There's a picture of the foyer, some expansion. Locker rooms could use an upgrade. A weight room could use an upgrade. And most schools our size have 2 gyms at their high school. We're one of the ones that don't. Am I missing really anything that you can think of at the moment?
No, I mean, conference-wise, with auxiliary gyms, with P Hill just getting theirs here a couple years ago, they have 2, Warrensburg has 2, Harrisonville has 2, and Center has 2. So us, Odessa, and Clinton are the only 2 schools that do not have the auxiliary gym. With the picture there of the parking lot to the east, just by walking it off and using Google Maps, to me, I think it fits there so that we can have the 2 gyms together, one big gym foyer entrance so that you can go into both whenever you're hosting activities in both. And last time, whenever we passed the bond, when I was talking with them about the weight room going on top of the new gym foyer, so that the mezzanines kind of walk into there, kind of like the Warrensburg has their main gym set up. So, that's kind of my idea. I look forward to being with the facilities committee and getting those ideas out there and seeing what would work if this comes to.
Yeah. So, and I think that's one thing about choosing an engineering firm. I think we can get in front of that a little bit. I kind of, do we want to walk into a car dealership and say, hey, I've got this much money, what can you sell me? Or do we want to walk in there and say, this is what I want, how much is it going to cost me? I think it's just a different approach. So there's our multi-purpose building, also known as a wrestling room. Could use just a facelift. It's a wonderful space. Some ideas there. There's the front parking lot in the high school. If you remember, that original parking lot was supposed to go all the way out to that retention pond. That's an additional 180 parking spots that got cut from the 2020 project just due to budget. This will allow our students to park in the front of the building, which is going to make a much more secure entrance. Right now, if a kid comes to school late, they have to park all the way on the south side, walk all the way around on the exterior of the building to enter the building. Plus, kids will open the door for their buddy to get in that gym foyer. So from a safety standpoint, going back to this front parking lot, students park in front, I think would be very beneficial.
Imagine coming in the front door.
Middle school, we talked about the existing overlay of the roof. Right now, we're in kind of a good point where the existing roof is still in good condition. So the best route, you can do an overlay at a much cheaper price and you still get the same product versus if we wait till we have damage and then they have to rip the entire roof off. So The lifespan of that roof is, it's done really well for as old as the building is, but it's time to look at that. STEM classrooms we'd looked at maybe going off the back, kind of where the shop is now, towards that back area. But that's, once again, this is a wish list. Elementary, either a new cafeteria or connecting to the current and closing that. And you'll see some redundancy on that list. Both of those items are on there, so it affects your money. But because you won't do both, you'll kind of do one or the other. But both of those are found in that list. Exterior window replacement from an energy standpoint, safety standpoint, appearance standpoint. Those windows have they've gone past their life expectancy. So I think that'll really help capture our building. Primary, there's the parking lot on the left. And then those exterior doors are in good condition, but for example, playground doors are really due for an upgrade at the primary, along with some on the south side as well.
So nice to get rid of that unsightly old Burl Webb's shed too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Talking about replacing that. I know Mrs. Euler enjoys her view at her new office window.
Yeah.
So kind of the next steps, partner with an architectural engineering firm, taking care of that tonight. We want to create a facilities committee, similar to how we did it in 2019. We want to do some surveys for updated concerns. I think we'll say, hey, these are the things we didn't get to previously. Are those still a priority for you? And I'd really like to hear from different groups. Once again, finalize and implement a long-range facilities plan, and that's something that an engineering or architectural firm will help us with. So with FSG, that would be great to partner with them to really help us finalize that long-range facility plan. And that goes 20 years out. It also includes things like equipment, your HVAC needs, your energy needs. There's a lot of things that go into a long-range facility plan. Technology needs, academic needs. All those things go in there, and a firm really helps kind of finalize those things. And so we'd like to use them for that. And then I get an idea on budgeting needs, financial resources, possibility of a bond project. So that's kind of where we're at and how we got to this point. So I know it's a lot of information, but we try to be encompassing.
How soon will we be putting together the facilities committee?
That's going to be a very quick turnaround in the next few weeks. We'd like to have.
And maybe you mentioned this. Sorry if you did. I don't know if I'm clear. Is that just staff and patrons?
We'd like a board member too on that. We'd like some patrons, some staff members, and I really like to get some input from some students. We'll probably do that through a survey, but I really like to hear what the kids
Maybe
have
a
to say.
former board member?
And I guess that FSG will have some ideas about that facilities group too. Yes, well, I know.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tom?
Thank you,
It's
Tom.
good to have a plan. What is it they say? Something about if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, next we have admin. So let's go forward. We start with youngest. Yep, youngest up.
Well, I had a paper and I don't have a paper anymore, so I'm just gonna wing it. First, to talk about the parents as teachers, just to sing their praises. Out of all the kiddos that we have come through the ECC program, that's how they get there, is through the screening through them. So most of it is by word of mouth, but it's also because of the relationships they've built in the town and the community. We are going to be sending 70 pre-K kids to kindergarten next year. That is half of the kindergarten class if this class stays the same size. That's huge. I mean, it used to be like 35. 40 was like max. Now 70, that's like a big number. So we're already starting to plan for spring how that's going to look if we have some heavy hitters. Like, I think it's made us realize what we're going to be sending into kindergarten and making sure that we have plans for them all for when they go in. So they have the resources they need and the teachers have the resources they need there. We are gearing up for conferences. We had a couple start tonight that couldn't make it on Thursday, so a couple teachers already started theirs tonight. Again, parent contact at this age and our relationships that we have with these families is huge. We will do our Title I teachers do their in-home conferences in the spring, but we highly encourage all of our parents to come to our parent conferences. We just went to the pumpkin pad with parents as teachers, and it was also our first field trip for our full day classroom. So they got to ride on the bus and they thought that was really cool. It was a big deal. So that was fun. A lot of families there, but hey, you guys have any questions about what's going on in our end of the world? We are gearing up for trick or treating. That's our big thing every year. You guys just need to put some goodness in the world that it stays warmer than what it's saying right now, because it's going to be pretty chilly. But we'll do a hayride and go around campus. So if you would like to be on campus that day, we would love for you to hand out some candy to us too. So let us know if you're interested. You guys have any questions?
Thank you.
That might be one thing that I would agree with what the state, not that's, they're, I'm trying not to get out in the weeds, but it's nice that they're looking at early childhood ed and the importance of it and actually putting some dollars toward it too.
Yeah, because what we talk about with these 70 kids, I think it's kudos to PAT and our program that we've captured these kids before coming to kindergarten. So it is a positive because these students have needed intervention and we have located them and have a place for them and are helping those kids before they come to kindergarten. So it is a positive too. So one of the traditions that we have at the primary that we enjoy doing every month is our character assembly. So we had our first one for the year 2023. So we honored 30 Super Panthers for respect at the end of September. And we had a special guest. We had Betos join us that day. So we told the kids he was the official first Super Panther. And they thought that was pretty cool. And Betos went around and took pictures with all the kids, high-fived. We thought bringing Betos in more regularly will help, especially if they go to outside school events and see Betos out, that they know he's a familiar, safe, friendly face, and hopefully.
When did you do that?
We did it September 27th.
Because that's the first time I've known at the volleyball districts, Betos was there, and he got sworn by Lewis. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we're hoping that Betos can join us each month as we go through the school year. Our last PD day we spent in the morning, of course, with our Trauma Smarts training, which we will have that every PD day. But then in the afternoon, we invited Devin, who's our new occupational therapist, and her group to come meet with our staff on sensory intervention. So our special education teachers, the whole ECC staff, and my specials teachers all attended that training, while my classroom teachers had literacy training. So very impactful information that we're kind of shifting to more sensory motor interventions for our kids to try to help them. So more will be coming as we get more educated on that. I'll be happy to share that. Of course, we celebrated homecoming just like every other building did with dress-up days throughout the week, that week. But I want to have some shout-outs too. I want to thank our PTO. If you haven't noticed on Facebook, Mrs. Alexander's been awesome about sharing all the amazing things that are going on at the primary and the ECC. But we had some parent volunteers who offered to cover recess duty and lunch duties for our teachers. And as you know, we would give the world for our teachers, but really what they want is their time and of course money, but that's hard to do, so time is what we can try to do, giving them back some free time. So our parents have volunteered their time to cover those special times that are easy for the parents to help cover so the teachers can have some more planning time. So far they've covered 2 different days and plan to be back each month to help. So I want to thank them for that. And those parents have to go through a background check and go through that approval process to make sure they are okay to be around our kiddos. I also want to thank Coach Richard and his coaching staff. They joined us last Friday, and the football players read to our kids. That's a long-standing tradition and one that we were able to do because they could just walk over from the high school before their game on Friday. And some were excited because some of our kindergarten classes were out at recess. So those football players got like the sigh of relief when they looked, hey, I just get to go out and play. And we said, yes, you guys go out and play. The rest of you got to go in and read to the kids. But they all did well. And of course, most of them, if they went through the primary, remember doing that when they were that age. So it's a good circle for them. Also, of course, this week's Parent-Teacher Conference week, so we're going to be very busy this week. And then, of course, with Halloween being next week, it'll be interesting and fun, too. Yes. But exciting days. And I've said it a couple times. So the kids have been pretty wound up. You know, this is typical for them to be wound up. But especially if you go in the lunchroom and you just, I mean, it's pretty loud. But I always tell my teachers, but look how happy they are. You know, like if they weren't loud, if they weren't as excited as they are, we wouldn't be doing the right thing either. So if you come into the primary, you'll definitely see some smiling, excited kids. So that's how we want them to be. So, all right. Thank you, guys.
Follow our Facebook page if you aren't. You can see all the fun.
I've been by your house twice, and you've been lit up. So 2 times.
Kidding, he hadn't been in a while, yeah, he really had it to us.
Okay. I'm gonna get-
And then we laid everything down, because it was all come over.
Well, we're doing a lot of the same things at the elementary that the primary is doing, and we definitely know when October is here and when Halloween's upon us. Those kids are excited. So we had our first OGE MVP. MVP stands for Most Valuable Panther. Assembled the first Friday in October. We celebrated 21 students, one from each classroom. They got a medal that says MVP, and actually, Miss Brooklyn Brown was one of our first MVPs. This school year, so we're excited about that. They got a certificate, a pencil, and an MVP medal, and then we did minute to win it games with our kids. Our winner brought an Oreo from his forehead to his mouth, his face muscles. So there's some good pictures on Facebook that Mrs. Harvey put for us. Our next OGE MVP assembly will be the first Friday in November. So we try to do those on the first Friday of each month to celebrate our students. We have parent-teacher conferences this Thursday as well. We have already started. We had some parents in the building before we started school this morning about 7:30 for parent-teacher conferences. So our teachers are accommodating parent schedules and parent needs so that they have that opportunity to meet with them about what's going on with the progress of each of our kiddos. We want to say a big thank you to our PTO. They're providing a meal, lunch for our teachers on Thursday. So excited about that and very appreciative. Next Tuesday, we have lots of things going on for Halloween. We have fall parties, and our PTO puts those on for us. They come into our gymnasium and set it up with all kinds of activities and crafts and fun things for our kids, and the teachers bring them down, and they have a good time throughout the day. But we also have a fall costume fun day, and all of our staff and all of our students come in their best attire on that day. So if you're looking for some fun, stop on by the elementary next Tuesday. You know, you're passing out candy anyway, you might as well stop there. We've completed our first round of progress monitoring with our reading fluency with the NWEA. We talked a little bit about that the past couple of times and what we're doing with that. We had benchmarks earlier in the year, but now we've had our first round of progress monitoring. This allows us to have a really specific conversation with our parents with current data regarding reading fluency as we get ready for these parent-teacher conferences. It's also a piece of our reading success plans that we have with students according to Senate Bill 681. Those are things that we need to be doing to keep our parents updated on where our students are at with reading. OGE has several clubs that are up and running. We have kind of tried to move back into the club phase since COVID. A lot of things were in place prior to COVID at the elementary, getting back into that. We have mindful movement on 2 days of the week, and this is a mindfulness and yoga class. Kids are coming in the front door first thing in the morning with their yoga mats. Pretty exciting. We have an art club that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we had so many students sign up for this, they had to set up 4 sessions. A Tuesday, a Thursday in the fall, and a Tuesday and a Thursday in the spring. So lots of kids are excited about that. Games Club, it meets 2 Wednesdays each month. They are talking about different board games and card games and things that you don't typically see students of this age in this current generation playing, and they're excited about it. But they have the opportunity to learn about them and then to play them and get in those social situations to learn how to have healthy debate sometimes. It's good practice for them. We have STEM Club that meets every Tuesday. This is just for our 5th graders. They're focusing in on science, technology, engineering, and math activities. A lot of creativity happening in that club on those mornings. We have the Page Turners Book Club. It meets 2 Tuesdays every month. They focus in on some specific books. They're given some options, and then they meet together in little book clubs to discuss that and to do activities focused around that. It's available for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. We have the Number Ninjas. It is specifically for our 3rd graders to work on their mathematician skills. Book Buds. This is a 3rd and 4th grade program where they have a specific read aloud book in that session and then a lot of activities. The teachers of that program or that club are Mrs. Carter and Mrs. Thomas, and they frequently like to wear inflatables.
in that. Yeah, coming out soon on Facebook. We have the Very Hungry Book Club. They read a lot of books around the food category and eat a lot of snacks. That's a fun club. And then we have the Kindness Club. And the Kindness Club meets 2 Wednesdays each month. They focus on service projects that are both within our school and outside of our school. So they have an opportunity to do some things to support some local places here in town. We're actually working on some Christmas cards right now for a local service agency. So excited about that. Lots of things happen at the elementary. If you're looking for something to do before school or after school, stop by and we'll put you to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just the Pathways update, we have had probably about 10 students complete 19 full semester courses and pass them, which is our end goal. And by the end of next week, we'll have about 10 more courses, semester courses completed. Our weight room is completely done and put together for the staff, where the students are working on a presentation. They've designed what they thought would be a great design, and they're presenting that. And that should be done and painted hopefully by the next board meeting. Tomorrow, all of high school and Pathways students are participating in the College and Career Ready. So our kiddos will travel over to the high school and do that all morning long. There's an incentive to this. Our students don't start school till 8:20, but they have to be at school at 7:15 tomorrow. So if they show up on time, they will have a pizza party tomorrow. They're really excited about that. They love food. We also have had 2 Missouri Option students complete HiSET tests and pass them, so they're halfway out the door. Super excited for those kiddos. We have, our kiddos went to the den a couple weeks ago, and it's been a huge thing for our kiddos. They have gone back after school, which is a really big plus for them. It gives them a safe space to enjoy good company, get some good food. And our kiddos asked if they could make it like an incentive for them. So they have put together their own rubric, what they think is acceptable. So their attendance, coursework, behavior, all of those things. And they are going to also be presenting that part of their public speaking skills. And that is what they want to do each month. So they'll take a couple hours out of their day, go over, visit the den. And during that time, they also get to play games, get those life skills, public speaking, good confrontation skills that they need. We will also be soon visiting New Life Clothes Closet. We found this to be a really big need. I think it was last week when it kind of cooled off. Several of our students, there's a lot of items that they could use. So I reached out to New Life Clothes Closet, and they want to partner with us. So we're going to visit them once this fall and then once again in the spring. They've already provided shoes and coats for several of our kiddos. We're going to take 2 trips, a boys trip and a girls trip, and give them some things that they need. We also have a washer and dryer over in the elementary. So our kiddos, a couple of them are going to be using that as a resource to, and again, life skills. So we also are going to have parent-teacher conferences. Ours look a little different. It was required that our staff makes contact with 100% of our families. And so that needed to be either by phone, email, in-person meetings. Our staff has done that. They started this a little while ago because it takes just a little bit longer to make contact with 100% of our families. So Thursday, we will also be sitting in a 3-hour training with Burl, talking trauma smart, de-escalation, some things that we need right now to help support our students, especially the students that we haven't quite gotten to in October. So we would need some extra support with that. Burl's coming in. Well, I'm very excited about that. I have also been working a lot with our victim advocate resource through the City of Oak Grove, and then also comprehensive They tie together. We've done several home visits, giving families some supports that they need. Mrs. Altman, our social worker, has been absolutely amazing. She's an awesome resource. If you guys ever get the chance to just talk to her, her knowledge is amazing. So really working with OGPD, Officer Bob, and then our victim advocate for town has been really important to help some of our parents. Numbers update, we are still doing intakes and onboarding, and it's awesome. We have added 2 more students, and I think I have 2 more intake meetings to complete. So numbers are growing, working on all that fun stuff. So, any questions?
Kudos to you and Lee for that. What a great program for kids that don't like school much, and giving the opportunities and like the shoes and clothes. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
I'm kind of subbing in for the middle school tonight. Those gentlemen couldn't be here. Fall sports ended last week. Football A team finished 4-2. Recognized the volleyball team a little while ago. Cross country, they don't do team scoring in middle school cross country, but they competed very well. OG homecoming activities were fantastic. I want to say a thank you to staff, students, parents, and Stuco for a great week. They had the Stuco tailgate activity last week. Close to 300 students attended that event. If you haven't been to a middle school tailgate, it's a really neat event that they do. Wanted to say thank you to First Baptist Church, Stuco members, volunteers, Nancy O'Keefe, teacher at the middle school, for organizing and making this event happen. Winter sports trials started today. OGMS started they had the SOS, which is Signs of Suicide program, implemented last Tuesday. Thank you to all of the volunteers from the primary, elementary, and high school. Also thank you to Erica Acord and other personnel from Borough Mental Health for assisting students during that program. First quarter ended Friday. Last PD day, the middle school staff identified priority standards, developed curriculum maps and pacing guides. Looking forward to parent-teacher conferences on Thursday, noon to 7. Thursday morning, they'll be doing some classroom preparation and staff collaboration. Want to recognize once again the volleyball team. Also, middle school started a thing this year. It's called Positive Referrals. Teacher sends in a positive about a student. So that's been a huge success. They've had 60 positive referrals submitted already to this point. So great program that they're doing. They're going to continue working on their curriculum. From a safety standpoint, the district safety team completed a site assessment of Oak Grove High School last week, and we'll be doing site assessments, safety site assessments, both primary and elementary next week. And then pathways and the middle school will be completed in the coming weeks. So lots happening at the middle school.
Mr. Salmon couldn't be here tonight, so he sent me his report, so I'm just going to read it off for him. September students of the month: freshmen Hannah Smith and Peyton Parks, sophomores Marin Smith and James Ross, juniors Gabby Pemberton and Thomas Cates, and seniors Riley Beard and Grady Salmon. Homecoming 2023, a season to celebrate. The students, faculty, and staff enjoyed a week of HOCO homecoming activities, including a huge bonfire, which was really big, a talent-filled pep rally, and well-attended dance. Thanks to Mrs. Kemp, Mrs. Bradley, Mrs. Wright, Mrs. Butler, Mr. Selke, and Mr. Newman for planning and executing several fun activities all week long. Thanks to all of the high school teachers who helped with hallway decorating, float building, and Spirit Day fun. Thanks to all the members of the OGABC who helped with the tailgate dinner before the community pep rally, and it was great to see Miss Bieneman in action again too. And I would also like to say thanks to Mrs. Kemp and Mrs. Bradley. The cheer coaches did an excellent job. First year coaches to really put the parade together. That's a very big task, and I think they did really, really well with that. Tons of entries this year. College and Career Fair. All students in attendance on 10/17 enjoyed the opportunity to talk with over 40 colleges, universities, and career representatives. Thanks to Mrs. Mossy, Mrs. Reynolds, Ms. Hargis, Mr. Newman, and Mr. Webster and his crew for their vital parts in organizing and hosting another successful event. The PSAT. Several juniors and sophomores took the PSAT on 10/19 for a chance to qualify as a National Merit Scholar. Thanks to Mrs. Reynolds for facilitating and to Mrs. T. Cunningham for proctoring the test for the students. The Summit Technology Academy. The counselors, Mr. Newman and I, met with the STA officials via Zoom and then at a tour earlier this month. The assistant director will visit with the entire faculty and staff on 10/26 about the programs available to students. I anticipate offering several programs for students during the 24-25 school year with Mrs. Hampton's and the Board of Education's blessings, of course. I will gladly discuss particulars and answer any questions at the November meeting. Hats for the Hackleys. Many students and faculty staff donated money to wear hats all last week to benefit the Hackley family after their house fire. Thanks to Stuco, Mrs. Wright, and Mrs. Butler for the idea and the logistics to make it successful. I believe they will present the check to the family this week if they have not already done that. Important dates coming up. Tomorrow is the College and Career Readiness Day. Freshmen will go through various presentations like CTC, CIC, Casey Scholars, etc. The sophomores will take the pre-ACT. The juniors, the ASVAB career exploration, and the seniors can either do a college visit, job shadow, or take the ASVAB again. 10/25 is National Honor Society applications are due. 10/26 are the parent-teacher conferences, 12 to 7, and Stuco will have their Halloween blacklight dance 8 to 10. 10/13 to 11/3 is the Youth Alive and NHS hygiene and cleaning item donation drive to benefit the Salvation Army. And 11/10 is second quarter midterm, and 11/20 to 24 is Thanksgiving break. So that's Mr. Salmon's report from the high school. I just have a couple other things to add. Cheer will be competing in the MCCA state competition in December. I believe that's the weekend of 12/9. Cross country had 2 all-conference medalists, Andrea and Jackson, who've been medaling in almost every meet this year. The district meet is this Saturday at Platte Ridge Park in Platte City, and state is next Friday at Columbia. Football finished the regular season with a record-breaking game last Friday. Still can't get over that game, but districts begin this Friday. We are hosting Summit Christian at 7 o'clock this Friday. Girls golf finished their season, first season, and had a first state qualifier, Allison McCormick. She competed in Joplin. Soccer is finishing up their season this week, regular season. Senior night is tomorrow. They are the number 1 seed in districts and will play the semifinal game on Halloween at 5 o'clock in Odessa. Softball had another record-breaking season. Everybody knows many school records and some NISHA records were broke, which we will get to after season. A couple things for their state run coming up. Wednesday, we're having a pep rally in the high school gym at 2:15. That's open to the public. We'll open the back doors, the gym doors at 2 o'clock for anybody that wants to come and watch that. Thursday is when the team departs for state. So at noon, we will have a send-off on Thursday. They'll be leaving from the high school gym, kind of follow the parade route out 12th Street and then south on Broadway down to Highway 50. So I've talked with Sny Valley and OGPD about leading that send-off for them. So again, that's at noon on Thursday. And then on Friday at 11 a.m. they play the semifinals versus Fatima. So playing that, and then hopefully they play Saturday at 10 for the state championship. So we'll see how that goes. Volleyball finished their regular season above 500 and got second in districts. Congratulations to Kaylee Hansen, Eva Alexander, and Kaylee Chisholm. They received all district honors. A lot of the all-conference stuff is starting to take place now with the voting, and that usually comes out after the last team in the conference is done playing. So be on the lookout on that in social media. All district choir, I think we had over 400 students here on Saturday. We produced 3 all-staters with that, Maddie Gilmore Johnson, Claire Netto, and Carson Morris. Marching band finished up their marching season at the Odessa Invitational, finishing first in parade, first in drumline, second in color guard, and fifth in field show. All of that equaled grand champs for them. So lots of good stuff going on in the sports and activities. As things begin to wind down, we're currently in dead week right now for the high school sports that will be beginning next Monday. So, and then lastly, at the request of you guys, I've polled the all coaches, assistants, head coaches, and directors for the day of, day after policy. Only got 51% emailed back. Out of that 51%, 67.9 are in favor of the policy and 32% are not in favor. But lots of good positives, negatives, lots of comments, positives, negatives, and changes they would like to see. So that will definitely be a discussion topic during my evaluations this year with the head coaches. I'll make sure they speak with their assistants and we can have some more conversation on that. So,
Good deal. I appreciate that.
no problem.
Gary?
Thank you.
Sir?
Only things I have is, bleacher guys did come, elementary and high school bleachers repaired, they were back again today, I don't know if they finished high school, if not, they'll be finishing up there, just making all the bleachers ADA accessible with step up and rail, so much overdue. Signage companies went on campus, they were today, replaced 2 of the signs in the press box. They had to middle school using signage on the south gym wall, exterior wall, elementary gym, and then above the high school entrance, going into the gym, that sign, just faded signs that are new, some's new signage and some is faded signs. We do have a sign out here now, pathway sign, and where to bed sign, so we'll know where we're at, so. And then I did develop my superintendent advisory committee and told staff, have 26 that were interested in serving, so good variety of certified, non-certified, veteran, new, and variety from every building. So excited that they're all willing to participate. Our first meeting, we just went over Finance 101, kind of just to give background on how we get our revenues, how we set our tax levy, just to kind of give a base of how we have money so that they can have better input on money decision making. Our next meeting is first Wednesday of every month is when we're meeting. Our next meeting is, we're gonna go over the state regulations for school calendar. The number of hours, the number of how soon you can start. There's quite a few regulations that the state sets on knowing and understanding, so then we can start having discussions on developing school calendar for next year. And then polling staff to see what those interests are. So it's been a good, the final thing is joint city school board meeting next Monday at City Hall, 6 p.m. So, did you see that? Did that go out? No? Did they know about that? They don't know about that? Okay.
Next Monday.
30th?
It's the 30th, Monday.
Monday.
Write that on your calendar. It wasn't well communicated. It was, we were trying to find dates, and then it was like, well, let's tentatively put this, and then finally we were like, is this real? Is this the real date? So yes, it is the real date, so those that can make it, next Monday, the 30th, 6 p.m.,
6
City
o'clock
Hall.
at City Hall.
We'll send out more specific info. Talk about, if you have anything specific that you are interested in talking about, email me, let me know, I'll send that out in the agenda. We've got a couple, just kind of updating them about possible bond. We're gonna update everybody on kind of the pond project that we're looking at collaborating on. And then if there's any other questions or anything else you want to bring up, just let me know.
You mean besides making the parking lot?
What are we making a parking lot?
The pond?
We can't be a parking lot.
How big, what's considered a pond?
It's actually no longer a pond. It's unfortunately, thanks to Dr. Haley and working with, it's now a stormwater retention basin for 36 acres of Oak Grove. But even still, with, you can drop pipes and put a damper and still cover it and park it. We did the same thing at the middle school. The middle school parking lot has 300 linear feet of 96-inch round pipes with water running through it, and there's a damper that you can't see because it's under the street, to maintain water flow. So it can be done.
Thanks, Mark.
It's only money.
Totally good.
Okay, we'll remind everyone that the next regular board meeting will be November 27th. I'm sorry, do you have anything?
No,
No. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Jason? A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? That's everyone.
Any of you guys happen to see the letter that our Senate,
Jason.
that our Senate
Thank you, everyone, for being here.